proposals. And I would have thought, given the strength that they now hold in a minority government, and given the fact they've got this written alliance with the government, I think Joel Fitzgibbon is entirely correct. He joins me on the line right now. Mr. Fitzgibbon, good morning.
G'day, Chris.
Wayne Swan is refusing to release the costings. Is it about the taxpayers needing to know? Is that all it's about, or is it a little bit more than that?
Well, as you know, for some time now, I've been fighting this campaign to force the Greens to submit their policies to Treasury for costing in the same way we have to do, because otherwise they get to run around the electorate at election time promising the world without any accountability. And I'm very pleased that the Greens appear to have capitulated, and in future they will submit their policies for costing. So that's a big sea change and something I welcome. I understand Wayne Swan's dilemma here. Obviously, you know, the Greens have been putting proposals to the government. The government has considered them, sent them off to Treasury for costing, and by using that process, they've become part of, if you like, the Cabinet in Conference information stream. So I think this could be overcome in the future by submitting their policies in isolation. Now, we're talking about pre-election. We're talking about policies in the here and now rather than election policies.
Yeah.
Send them to Treasury in isolation so they don't become part of the Cabinet process, and then the taxpayers can have a good look at what the Greens are proposing and what it costs. And at the same time, the information can go back to Cabinet for consideration so it doesn't get tied up in that Cabinet process.
See, when I hear that the Treasurer refuses to answer questions about the costings of Greens policies, I think, well, hang on, they've obviously got something to hide. He's had a bit of a peek and realises they're a loony bunch and they shouldn't have had an alliance with them in the first place. That's immediately what people would think. Don't you agree?
Well, again, I can see Wayne Swan's dilemma. The Greens come knocking on the government's door and they say, look, we've got this new policy proposal, and the Treasurer rightly says, well, pretty hard for us to consider that either in a positive way or otherwise, unless we know what it's going to cost. So he takes it to Cabinet, they send it off to Treasury for costing, and then suddenly it's part of the Cabinet process. So I understand, well, I haven't seen the documents, but I can understand that there may be a very good reason why he might not want to release these particular costings, because they have become tied up in the Cabinet process. What I'm suggesting, so that we are consistent with the call we've put out there for the Greens to put their election policies in for costing, in the future we should send them off to Treasury first in isolation before they become a part of the Cabinet process.
See, we all have a cynicism towards what the Greens want outside of environmental policies, because, you know, some of the founders of the Green movement have recently gone public with the fact that they see the Green movement moving too far away from their environmental mantra, and they're caught up in this idealism of policy in so many other portfolio areas that they don't know too much about and they don't know how to cost properly. I would have thought it's fair criticism to say the Greens don't have a great track record when it comes to costing things properly.
Well, absolutely. I keep using what I think is a very good example. If you have a look at their policy manifesto, you will see that they are committed to abolishing all TAFE fees and charges. Now, that would be wonderful. We'd all love to do that, but if you're going to spend billions of dollars doing that, you have to show how you're going to find the money. You're either going to raise taxes or cut programs elsewhere. Now,
yeah, they've never been pragmatic. It's all been about idealism, right?
Well, not in every case. I mean,
in most cases.
Well, in many cases, and you know, we've actually, in a sense, encouraged them to do this by not pushing for more accountability.
Yeah.
Now, we've virtually given them our imprimatur to run around and sell these uncosted policies at, of course, our expense, and I think it's got to come to an end.
Okay, let me ask you a follow-up question on exactly what you've just said. Do you believe the Greens have ended up doing more harm to the Labor Party than good?
Well, I made the point on Q&A that a progressive party like the Labor Party should take government at every opportunity, and the alliance with the Greens was a necessary part of taking government, and I think that by being in government, we've continued to do very, very good things. It's been harder because of the partnership with the Greens, but I think it's been worthwhile.
Worthwhile?
I do think it's
The party faithful have not gone up to you, Joel Fitzgibbon, and said, cut our alliance with the Greens. They're lunatics. I won't support the party until you do. No one said that to you?
I've been very open about that. There are people in electorates like my own in the Hunter Valley who are concerned that we are dancing the tune of the Greens.
Yeah.
That's a bit unfair. There is a case for that argument, but I think it's unfair. But
it's a widespread thought.
Well, it is, and that's why I've been active in establishing some product differentiation, making sure people understand that we are a major responsible party capable of governing and doing good things. They are a fringe group with some extreme and populist policies, and people should be very careful about voting for them.
A couple of quick things. Will we ever see Wayne Swan lead the country, apart from when Julia Gillard is on holidays or OS?
I have never heard Wayne Swan express an ambition to be Prime Minister.
That's not kind of answering the question. Will he ever become Prime Minister?
Well, if he doesn't have an ambition to be Prime Minister, I think it's pretty fair to say he's not likely to be Prime Minister.
Last night, the Prime Minister was interviewed by Lee Sales on the ABC. I just want to play you this audio, if I can. This is Lee Sales asking her about a possible change in leaders. And, this is it. This is Julia Gillard.
What do you say to the people in your team who are feeling nervous and antsy and, gee, should we change leaders?
Well, what I would say to anybody, whether it was someone in my Labor team or someone in the local community, I would say, well, there are times in politics that are tough, and that's probably telling you you're getting the big things done.
Are you getting the big things done?
Well, we are, Chris, and that's a statement of fact. We've got big policy. We've got a big policy program. We are getting good things done. And I hope we get every opportunity to continue to do so.
But is there a tendency here to get the big things done and commit suicide in the process?
Well, there's not much point being in government to do nothing. It frustrates me to see people who seek power just for the sake of holding power. Julia Gillard is proving she's certainly not about that. She is progressing a very big reform program, important projects for the nation, and you've got to give her credit for that.
Doesn't she have to keep her eye, though, on the polls, which are at almost rock bottom at the moment?
Well, of course she does, and it's important to be popular in politics, and polls do matter, and I'm sure she's acutely aware of that, but you've got to give her credit for standing by her guns and continuing to pursue these very important reforms.
One, before we let you go, yesterday New South Wales, Victoria, WA and Queensland failed to reach an agreement with the federal government, with Julia Gillard, on the National Disability Insurance Scheme. Why was there this timetable, as I mentioned with Barry O'Farrell earlier, where it had to be done by 5 o'clock yesterday? That was the negotiation period only, when it doesn't come into next year, and it's going to be introduced, a month before we expect the next federal election. It's not a tad cynical?
Well, I can't answer the question. I'm not part of the process, but I can say it's the sort of money, in relative terms, the Prime Minister was asking those big states to put forward is peanuts, and they should have just simply put their hands up on such an important proposal and said, yes, we are in.
Okay. I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
That's a pleasure, Chris.
All right.